First, second and third, Tim Edgell. You can see that speed radar on the top of the bridge there as Andy Knight flashes through in the 4th position. Start of the weekend, we were sort of seeing speeds in around the 210, 211 kilometre range, but the top speed off the radar has been 216 kilometres an hour for the BNTV8. You compare that to 241, 242 for the supercars.
It just proves how competitive these BNTV8s are, because keep in mind, they don't have the technology or the advanced acceleration that the supercars do. So to only be 25, 30 kilometres off is really a sterling job.
And again, you're talking, what, 450 horse as opposed to 650 horse for a full-blown V8 supercar.
Yeah, 6-speed gearbox versus 4-speed, etc. So that the change is always there. And for the time difference to be so minimal, I say it's a full credit to these guys, especially the top guys, because they are going hammer and tom.
So Andy Knight here in the 4th position. Andrew Anderson in 5th, the top and best performing Holden. Now, there's been some changes for the Holdens this weekend, the opportunity to test a new rear front under tray. So they've got the Ford under tray and a new Harrop built designed rear hub just to get the centre of gravity up in the front end of those race cars. That's Dale Williams getting a big piece of the chicane.
And that's the difference between the Suzuki Swifts, although he's slowing down, and the V8s. The V8s can absorb those curves when you hit them. But going back to what you're alluding to, because this is non-championship, the teams have got together and said, look, we want to try some development parts for next year. There's no better time to try it than in racing conditions. So the Holdens have got 2 different bits. And one thing we've seen from the Holden that we haven't seen for the rest of the year, the cars have been consistent right through the whole race. Normally after lap 2 or 3, they start to fall off. So maybe these changes are good.
Well, it just looks like Kane Scott and John McIntyre have closed that gap. And is that a wisp of smoke there from the left rear of Tim Edgell's car? Just a puff. It might have just been bottoming out maybe over the bumps.
No, I think it's actually a bit more than that. It was too early down the straight for it to be part of the braking. See underneath the car there's a slight haze?
Yeah,
right there.
Definitely. Tim Edgell's got a problem here. The left rear corner of the Chester's Ford.
Well, maybe what he's done, he might have just kissed the wall somewhere and perhaps the guards come down on the tyre, so it's a bit of tyre smoke under load.
We'll keep an eye on that as they run down through to the chicane. Kane Scott and John McIntyre definitely have closed that gap in the last lap or so.
Okay, if it's a guard, we're going to see more smoke right now because the car's rolling down to that particular area. But you see what? It's coming from the bottom of the tyre, bottom of the rim. It's not a guard, maybe a mechanical issue.
So is that maybe a brake issue or even a diff issue?
Yeah, it's some kind of smoke getting on the hot rotor. It could be brake fluid, it could be differential, to be honest, I don't know. But either way, there's a lot of corners where that's getting loaded up. So the last thing you want to do is have too much oil go into that left rear tyre and actually cause yourself to spin.
Well, Kane Scott and John McIntyre will certainly be aware as they are on the hunt for the race lead here. Tim Edgell looks to be struggling with the Chester's Ford.
Well, at the moment, Timmy, he's a wounded soldier, or he's a wounded animal, and these 2 guys are the Lions. They can sniff that smell of blood in the air and they're about to pounce.
Well, he's covering that inside line off the main straight down into turn number 1. 2 laps left to go here at the ITM 400 for the BNTV8's race 1. He's got in deep, he's looped it up.
Yeah, look, maybe on his own oil. He did go in pretty hard. He was on the inside track trying to be defensive, which is where the grip isn't. So let's just see if he can pluck first gear and get out of there. Johnny McIntyre's taken advantage and leapfrog Kane Scott into the lead.
Well, he's gone from 3rd to 1st in 1 corner, so he's taken advantage. Kane Scott maybe just braked up a little bit earlier to avoid Tim Edgell going around in front of him.
Can't help but thinking maybe we can get a replay, but Kane was actually going to the outside of Timmy. Timmy went wide and Johnny had the clean inside running. I think that's where he might have jumped them.
So new race leader John McIntyre, chased by Kane Scott. John McIntyre conceding the championship to Craig Beard for the BNTV8s this year. No Craig Beard, as we said, and some news fresh from China with Craig Beard. As we go to the replay, we'll come back to that. Edgell.
Kane Scott absolutely nowhere to go. He couldn't turn in because he didn't know what was going to happen to Timmy. That just, see the flames in the back there? That's probably the oil that we saw before.
On board with McIntyre. Yeah, Kane ran in very deep. He just didn't know where to go.
Johnny McIntyre, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. We're coming back to Craig Beard. He did a very good job in practice up in China for the opening round of the Asian Carrera Cup Championship.
Yeah, in free practice he was 2nd quickest, which is a good effort, and of course qualifying is a little bit later. They did say it was only 3 degrees when he was out there, so he said somewhat cold and hard to get used to the conditions. The other thing these teams have to take into account, and this is across all the categories, if you look in the front of the cars, there's all the leaves that get caught in. You just see it in Johnny McIntyre's car. If that becomes too big an issue, it can cause these cars to get hot in the temperature. That's the last thing you need.
Is that a big drama for them over 12 laps as we've got the final lap board? John McIntyre and Kane Scott disputing the race 1 win for the BNTV8s here from Hamilton. Over 12 laps, is it an issue with those leaves getting built up?
It can be, especially if you pick them up nice and early in the race. And then if you get caught in someone else's battle and you can't drive the nice clean air, then yes, it will be. The man that could become the spoiler in this is actually the car in front. I think that might be Simon Richards. Now, if these guys catch him in the chicane and he doesn't move over, this could get quite interesting.
Final lap run, John McIntyre looking for the race victory ahead of Kane Scott. They've cleared out from the rest of the field. Tim Edgell looked like he was able to continue. So Andy Knight now up into the third spot. McIntyre very aggressive through the chicane.
Just hammering the curves, but on these cars you can do that. You can use as much curve as you can. Well, actually to a certain degree, otherwise if you're not careful, it's going to spit you out the back door. But they hit him, the cars absorb, they take a nice set and away they go. But where are they going to catch this car in front? Because it could be less than ideal for Johnny McIntyre if he catches him in corner 8 and he doesn't get a clean run off.
Out of turn number 6, they're going to pick him up towards 7. Big pole.
Oh, Kane Scott! Wow, that's a big hit.
Off into the concrete to the right. What happened there? He's continuing on. Can he hold on to second?
Now, has he got a mechanical failure? Because he's slowed right down.
Well, out of the final corner, John McIntyre, well, everything's fallen into his hands in this race. He's going to take the victory for the NZV8s from Hamilton. Race 1, Kane Scott is going to salvage second place, but slowing at the line. And Andy Knight not quite close enough to take advantage in third. Andrew Anderson, the best performing Holden, in fourth ahead of Eddie Bell. And Andy Booth will complete the top 6 in the Big Ben Commodore. Timmy Edgell, he crosses the line in 7th after his issues in the last couple of laps. Go back to Clark Proctor and Nick Ross, and there is John McIntyre celebrating. Victory in race 1 for the NZV8s, and on the run down to the flagpole, Manuel's got into the concrete. Here's a replay.
Just come around and, oh no, John Penny. Oh! Well, that's a big hit, eh?
Manuel had already got around right into the path, I think, as he was trying to regain the track. So there's Manuel going around at turn 7. Straight back into gear, and there's John Penny.
Yeah,
wrong place, wrong time.
No matter what he done there, he was going to be in the wrong place anyway, because otherwise he would have got T-boned. So he done the best thing by dropping the throttle and trying to get it around. But Kane Scott, 2 corners to go, bouncing off both walls.
John McIntyre with the victory in race 1 for the NZV8s from Hamilton. Kane Scott second, Andy Knight third, followed by Anderson, Bell and Booth. The big mover though, Wade Henshaw up into the 12th position, having started from grid position 23.